The National Democratic Party is disputing claims made by the members of the Virgin Islands Party that the NDP exited their administration with a huge debt that was picked up by the current VIP government when they came into power. During the VIP launches at large, Representative Keith Flax and Minister Julian Fraser said when the VIP government took office in 2007, they met many significant commitments that were made by the previous NDP administration. Flax said in 2006, the NDP overspent by $44 million. And Fraser said the NDP left the country in a hole.
When the Virgin Islands Party took over the reins of government in August of 2007, we found ourselves faced with having to honor many significant commitments made by the previous administration. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not unusual for one government to take over the liabilities of another. But ladies and gentlemen, giving regard for the size of our country and our income revenue stream, it was very difficult for the Virgin Islands Party to launch out on the projects we had envisaged as quickly as we would have liked to. We had monies outstanding for a number of contracts that had to be satisfied, and this is a fact. Ladies and gentlemen, a supplementary appropriation of $44,762,427 towards recurrent expenditure for the year 2006, including $14,260,800 towards capital expenditure for the same year, was passed in the House in November 2010. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying. The appropriation for 2006 was overspent by that administration by $44 million.
$64 million hospital. He spent $64 million. We spent $64 million on the hospital. We were up to $100 million and it's still not finished. What does that leave you with? A $36 million hole that they got us in, right when the hospital is not finished. $36 million already. Plus the three that I talk about, that's $39 million. They drove the country in a hole.
But members of the National Democratic Party are refuting claims that they left no money in the Treasury. Speaking at the NDP rally in Greenland, at-large candidate Ronnie Skelton said that the NDP prior to leaving office had secured a $45 million loan from the Social Security Board with commitments from two other banks for additional monies for the construction of the new hospital. According to Skelton, the VIP argued that the country was left without money as they had to spend what was in the Treasury on the hospital. But Skelton claims that the money for the hospital was already in place.
They say the country is broke because they spend the money on the hospital that we were building. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you this. Before we left office, we had a loan from Social Security for $40 or $45 million. And we had commitment from the banks, Banco Popular and Scotiabank, for further $25 million to add $65 million for the construction of the hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, if we make all the arrangement for the hospital project financing to be completed and for approval, then how can we leave the country broke? Again, they have no idea what they're doing. And I must say the Premier needs to set a lot of these things straight. And I know he's not going to do it.
Addressing the issue of the territory's financial status during the handing over of power from the NDP to the VIP was 4th District candidate Mark Vanterpool, who said that under the NDP, the country's revenue was growing. He said in 2007, when the NDP left office, there were $35 million to spend when the VIP took over.
This government had money to spend. There's something called a recurrent expenditure. Stick with me still. I ain't done. The recurrent expenditure, in other words, the money you have to spend on the regular things, salaries, wages, rents, whatever else you have to spend on. The Premier said he was tightening his belt in one of his budget speeches. I know how tight it is. But right now, I know that they continue to spend. 2007, they received $270 million and spent $235 million on the operating expenses, and they had $35 million left over to spend on capital projects, etc. $35 million left over when Ronnie and Dr. Smith and his team finished. They pulled in $270 million, spent $235 million to operate the government, and it was left with $35 million. For 4 years, an excess of $110 million. Write it down. 43 in 08, 23 in 09, 21 in 10, 2011, 23 million. This government had $110 million over the recurrent expenditure to spend on capital improvements to help to build this country. At the end of that time, there's no hospital, no new schools, no sewage completed, greenhouse, empty, Garden Puzzle, not completed, community centers, not completed. Where did that $110 million go is the question.
Both the VIP and NDP have been speaking out about the territory's financial position. According to the Auditor General's 2007 report, the year 2007 during the NDP administration recorded an operating surplus of $32.4 million. The report also shows that at the end of 2007, when the NDP left office, there was $82.5 million in the consolidated fund. However, the Auditor General's report for the years 2008 to 2010 during the VIP administration, according to Premier Ralph O'Neill, are not yet available.